Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to work on this necklace, and this necklace is using some of the beads from Eureka Crystal Beads Wild West Wonders collection. But you know, as usual, you don't have to have the collection to make this. You can just pull out some beads from your stash. You can order the beads. I will link the collection in the description box below the video if you're interested. It's still available, I think. And I'll list the beads individually as well, so if you want to purchase. All right, so the fun thing about this necklace, it's reversible. So here's one side. So this was originally the front, and then the back was coming out so pretty and so finished, and I just thought we have to show the back as well. So it's really not the back, it could be the front. I just love the pattern that it makes here, and I think the bugle beads are so pretty. My husband likes this side. So we use this little connector here, and it's not double-sided, so if that part bothers you, you can decorate this. Like in the back here, I put some flat back crystals here. I glued them in with E6000. They're in like iron. They're not going to come out. You could probably take some little ones and just make a really pretty pattern just by gluing it onto the back. You can leave this off. You can put something else there, whatever you like. The drop is from my stash. You could also add a tassel on, which I seem to have misplaced. Wait, where's my tassel? Here it is. Okay, so you could add a tassel on like that, and I will give you, we've already made this tassel, a tutorial for this tassel, so I'll link that in the description box below the video, along with the collection and the beads, and where you can purchase all the materials for the tassel as well. Okay, let's clear this off and get started. Let's get the materials that's going. So you'll need some Ginko beads. Now, some of the beads that I put out here now are going to be different colors or slightly different style from what's in the collection, because I used the beads in the collection, so I just have to put a substitute out. But there are just a couple of things I added here from my stash. So here I've got some Ginko beads, Super Duo, 2 colors of 15-0s. This is the one I added. I have an 11-0 seed bead. I've got a Toho Treasure. You can use a Delica here. I've got a 6mm bugle bead. I've got the 4mm pearls, and this turquoise bead I added from my stash. This is a turquoise bead that I had, and I just want is just going to be the chain here, so you can really do anything. The beads in the collection, you know, find things for the chain as well. 4mm bicones. I've got the 8mm chaton. It's different than the one that's in the collection because I used the colors. We've got this little 3mm African turquoise, I believe, bead here. I've got a toggle clasp. The one in the collection is so pretty. It's got a feather on the toggle bar. I added a couple of jump rings. If you want to reverse your necklace and you want to put those little flat backs in the back, I've got some little flat backs. I think these are they 4mm? I'm not sure. I will, you know, everything is going to be linked in the description box below the video, so you'll need sizes, shapes, amounts, and all that. So that will be down in the description box, as well as links to all the beads and the collection if you're interested. Okay, here's that little piece here, the little metal piece, and I just think that's so pretty. If you want to do a drop, you know, you'll need a 2-inch eye pin and then various beads to make your drop the way you like it. If you want to do the tassel, I'll link the video where we actually make the tassel, and I'll link all the materials for the tassel as well. You need a stop bead. Let's say that's a stop bead. I've got a needle case with all different size needles in it, and I'm using 6-pound Firelin. I'm using crystal because I can't find my black satin anymore. They don't make it anymore. So we're using this. We'll, in the future, maybe, you know, I have a whole bunch of different brands of thread that maybe we'll test them out and, you know, see which ones we like the best. So we've got that. I think that's everything. As I said before, everything is listed in the description box below the video. I occasionally forget things. I know somebody's always reminding me, and thank you so much if I forget to put something in. So I will make sure that I have everything in the description box below the video. All right, so let's clear this off and get started. Let's get started. So thread your needle with about 40 inches of thread, put on a stop bead, and leave enough of a tail to sew in. So I picked up and dropped down to my stop bead, a Ginko, and 4 11-0s. Just like that. Just going to sew through the other side of that Ginko bead. Next up, I've picked up a 15-0, a super duo, and a 15-0, a Ginko, and 4 11-0s. So just like that, I'm just going to sew through the other hole of the Ginko. Like that. This is what it looks like so far. I'm going to repeat what I just did. I've picked up a 15-0, a super duo 15-0, Ginko, and 4 11-0s. Drop those down. Like so. And then I'm just going to sew through the other hole on the Ginko. Like that. That's what it looks like so far. So you're going to do that until you have 6 Ginko beads on. And in between there will be an 11-0, a super duo, and an 11-0. Okay, so I've put on all my sequins, and here's my last Ginko. So in order to complete the circle, we need to add a 15-0, a super duo, and a 15-0, and then you're just going to sew through that very first Ginko that we started with, right there. And you'll have something that looks like that. What we have so far, so we're exiting that first Ginko. I'm going to sew through these first 4 15-0s. I just want to sort of move my thread away from where I connected. So there through the 15-0s, I'm going to come down through the Ginko like that. I'm going to come through the 15-0, super duo 15-0, and up the Ginko. I'm just moving my thread out of the way. We are actually headed towards the bottom hole of the super duo, but we'll get there. So I'm just sewing around just a little bit. You don't have to reinforce the whole thing. So like that. Coming down the Ginko. So I've just moved my thread over a little bit. I'm going to sew through the 15-0, the super duo, and the 15-0 right there. And now I'm going to sew, actually I'm going to sew through just the super duo, the 15-0 and 1 super duo. Sorry about that. Okay, so you're exiting super duo. I'm just going to sew through the other hole of that super duo. So just like that. So this is what I have, and you want to make sure you pull it tight so there's no thread showing. So you'll be exiting right here through one of the super duos. Next up, I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a Toho Treasure, and a 15-0. I'm exiting here, the bottom hole of, I'm called the bottom hole of the super duo. I'm going to sew through the next one like that. I'm just going to repeat that, 15-0. Treasure 15-0 through the next super duo. So you're just going to repeat that all the way around. Down to my last 15-0, treasure 15-0. I'm going to sew through the super duo. I'm just going to move on a little bit just to close up the circle. And then I'm just going to move I just moved a little bit past where I connected, and I'm going to exit one of the treasures. So it doesn't matter which one. Just don't want too much thread in these because we're going to be using them again. So exiting the treasure, we're going to pick up a 15-0, a treasure of 15-0. So exactly what we did before. We're exiting this treasure. I'm just going to sew through the next treasure. So skip over to this one. Like that. Do that again. 15-0, treasure 15-0. Next thing, the treasure. I'm going to sew through the next treasure. You can use any colors you like here. I'm just trying to get sort of a pattern going. So here, just going to repeat that all the way around. Coming down to the end, I'm having my 15-0 treasure 15-0. I'm going to sew through the next treasure, like so. Lock that into place, and then I'm just going to sew through the next 15-0 and the next treasure. So you want to exit that outside treasure bead or inside. So the one right there. Just like that. I'm going to pick up my other color 15-0 and I'm exiting the treasure in there so I can pull in a little bit more. I'm just going to sew through the next treasure. So all the sticking out treasures there. So just like that. I'm going to do that through each of the treasures. So a 15-0 and a contrasting color if you like. So do that all the way around. Last 15-0, exiting this treasure, I'm going to sew through this one. Pull that into place. Get your thread caught. There we go. That's what it looks like. At this point, if you want, you can reinforce this if it's loose. Mine's nice and snug and I think it's just fine. So I'm exiting the treasure. Now stay with me. I'm going to move through. I want to exit a Ginko, so I'm sewing. Here's the treasure. I'm going to sew through that 15-0 right here. I know these little tiny beads. I'm having trouble saying them. So through the 15-0, using my magnifying light. So through the 15-0, through this treasure, through the 15-0 and the super duo. So I'm just working my way up to get to the outside of the piece so I can add some more beads on. So I'm just going to keep working around. So I'm exiting the super duo. I'm going to sew through the top hole of the super duo, the 15-0 and the Ginko if you can get it. You don't have to force it, just do it after. You know, it's just a matter of angle. Like that. Now I'm exiting the top of a Ginko bead and we can add some more beads on. Gee, that's pretty already, isn't it? Okay, let's move on. So we're exiting the Ginko. I'm just going to sew through the first two 11-0s of those 4 right there. I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and I'm going to sew through the next two 11-0s. So I'm just placing an 11-0 right there like so. Then I'm going to pick up 4 15-0s. So I'm going back to this turquoise color. I'm going to stick with this turquoise color. Exiting here, I'm going to sew through the top hole of the super duo, the next super duo. When I pull that, it gives me sort of that graduated look, right? So I'm exiting the super duo. I'm going to pick up 4 15-0s. I'm going to sew through these two 11-0s of the next, that group of 4 on top of the Ginko, picking up an 11-0, sewing through these, the next two. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to do that all the way around. Okay, coming down to our last 4 15-0s, exiting this super duo, I'm going to sew through the first 3 beads of this on top of this Ginko. So the first 3 11-0s, that's including that top one, you know, that's sticking out. So this is what it looks like. Let's continue on. So we're exiting that 11-0 right here. So we're going to pick up a 15-0, one of the bugle beads, that's a 6mm bugle bead, and 2 15-0s. Exiting here, I'm going to sew through the bottom hole of the super duo right here, or just that hole of the super duo, like that. I'm going to pick up 2 15-0s, a bugle bead, and 1 15-0, and I'm going to sew through that center bead, that 11-0, on top of the Ginko bead. So just like that. Let's see how we're just going to embellish and, you know, make the back a little more secure. Now we're going to try and reverse this. We'll see. we'll definitely give that a try. So I'm trying to make the front and the back look beautiful. All right, so we're exiting right here. I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a bugle bead, and 2 15-0s. Exiting here, coming through the super duo like that. And then I'm going to pick up 2 15-0s, a bugle bead, and 1 15-0, and I'm going to sew through this 11-0 on top of the Ginko bead. So every time I'm at the bottom here, I'm going to put 2 15-0s on. Do you see how that it's making a pattern right here? And then every time at the top, I'm just going to put 1 15-0 on, just so there's 1 15-0 on either side of that 11-0. So just going to do that all the way around. Down to the end, so I'm putting on my last 2 15-0s, bugle bead and a 15-0. I'm going to sew through that top 11-0, just like that. This is what it looks like so far. I think it's so pretty. I love both sides. I think they're really pretty. This is where we are right now. I'm going to turn my piece over. So I'm exiting this 11-0 right in here, that middle guy. I'm going to sew through the next 2 11-0s right there. And then I'm going to sew down through this Ginko bead, just like that. So we're going to make the bezel now. So this is what it looks like so far. Next up, we're going to pick up 3 15-0s, a Toho Treasure, and 3 15-0s, and I'm going to sew through the next Ginko bead. So you have to maneuver your needle a little bit to get through, but it should go through pretty easily. Make sure I'm not tangled here. So like that. So it's just going to have this little bit sticking up there. So at this point you're exiting the Ginko bead. It's hard to see because it's in there. You're just going to sew through the 2 11-0s right here. This guy right here, the middle one, and then the 2 11-0s on the other side, like that. And you're going to sew down through the Ginko bead. And I think, so just like that. So you're just moving over the next Ginko. I actually put a 11-0 instead of a 15-0 in here, but you know, happens. You know, if I was doing this, I would take it out, but this is just a sample for you, so you know, just make sure all your 15-0s are right here. That could be a 15-0, I'm not sure. Okay, anyways, I'm coming down just the Ginko bead. All right, I'm going to pick up 3 of my 15-0s. Again, my Toho Treasure and 3 15-0s. And I'm going to sew through the next Ginko bead. So you might have to move some of your beads out of the way. If it goes through the 11-0 right here, that's fine because you're headed there anyway. So like that, you're going to pop through the 11-0s. If you want, you can skip that middle one. That'll pop it up a little bit more, but I think it's fine to go through it. It's up to you. And then just sew through the 2 11-0s on this side. Like that. Change your needle size anytime you need to. Down the Ginko, like that. Do that again, 3 15-0s, the Toho Treasure, and 3 15-0s. And you're going to sew through the next Ginko, and so on. So just like that. So you're just going to keep doing that. So you have all these little, sort of like little netting looking pieces sticking up. So finish that all the way around, and then we'll continue. Okay, coming down to my last 3 15-0s treasure, 3 15-0s. I'm going to sew through the Ginko bead and the 11-0s. Just like so. So that just put all my little sort of netting pieces on. Now I'm exiting the 11-0. I'm going to go right down through the Ginko. want to head up through that first netting sort of piece there. So you can just, if your needle just goes straight through, mine's bending a little bit, just let it go straight through, because I do want to end up at this delica here. And then here's the treasure. So ultimately, you just want to end up sewing through that treasure on the bottom there, so we can add some beads on here. Okay, so this one I have so far. I'm exiting the treasure. I'm going to pick up one of the little turquoise beads, the 3 millimeters, I believe they are, and I'm just going to sew through the next treasure right there. So you're just putting a little turquoise bead in between each treasure, just like so. And before you finish it and tighten it up, we'll pop in the stone here with the crystal. So just keep doing that all the way around, and then we'll pop in the stone. My last stone, or my little turquoise, it is a little gemstone like so. That kind of looks pretty, doesn't it? Just like that. It's very dimensional. So just like that. I'm not going to tighten it. I'm just going to sort of open it up a little bit. I'm going to pop my chaton in there. Give that a little pull. This is what it looks like so far. So I've put in my chaton, exiting the treasure. I'm just going to advance right through that first bead I put on, so that little turquoise bead, and pull. This is what it looks like. Now I'm just going to pick up a 15-0, and what color did I use? I used this one. I'm just using contrasting colors here for you. So here I'm going to put a 15-0 in between each of those turquoise beads that I put on. So 15-0. 15-0. I'll just let you do that all the way around. Let's move on. We're almost there. All right, so I've just come all the way around. I've added that little 15-0 in there, and I'm going to exit one of the little turquoise beads I put on. And so you're exiting a turquoise bead. You can reinforce it if you need to. I'm going to sew through this delica right here at the end of that little group of, the 3 15-0s and the delica, or treasure, whichever. And then I'm going to sew up through the 3 15-0s like that. Now, just a note here, if you're running out of thread, you can end your thread and add a thread at any time. All right, so I'm exiting the top here of these 3 15-0s. Pick up 2 15-0s, my 4 millimeter bicone, and 1 15-0, just like that. I'm going to skip the 15-0. I'm going to sew through the bicone like that. Just put my thumb there to hold it. Oops. And then I'm going to pick up 2 15-0s, and I'm going to sew through these 3 on the other side. Just like that. I'm going to give it a little pull to straighten it out. That's what it looks like. I'm just going to advance my needle over to this delica, this little turquoise bead, just moving over to the next space to put a bicone on, and then this delica or treasure, and then up these 3 beads. And then we're just going to repeat what we did right here, like this for our necklace. Now, if you want a bracelet, what if you just connected all the pieces this way? That would make like a very beautiful bracelet. All right, so I'm gonna do the necklace, so I'm gonna go like so. So I'm gonna thread my needle with a couple of feet of thread. I'm gonna put on a stop bead and leave enough of a tail to sew in. So I've just sewn up through the 2 11-0s. See where I am? My needle's coming through here. The 2 11-0s before that middle, like sticking up 11-0 right there. So I'm just gonna place my thread on like so. Then I'm going to pick up 3 11-0s. So I'm going to work with 11-0s and 15-0s here. I'm going to pick up 3 11-ohs, and I'm going to sew through the same 2 on the other side, on the other, unit. So let's get your needle in there and come through these 2. There we go. You can always change to a size 12 beading needle here. So here are the 3. So when I pull that through, there we go. It's just going to place 3 of my 11-ohs right there. So you see that? Here's the thread path, just like so. I'm going to pick up 3 15-ohs, and I'm using a contrasting color here. And I'm going to sew through that little 15-oh on the end of my bicone. So just like that. And then I'm going to pick up another 3 15-ohs. And I'm going to, I have to move this around a little bit. I'm just going to sew through the 2 11-ohs before that end. The point 11-oh. So coming out of the bicone, picking up 3 15-ohs, sewing through those 2 like I did before, and you see how that kind of places that on like so. Pick up 3 11-ohs, and I'm going to sew through the 2 11-ohs that are on the side of that sticking out 11-oh. So just like that. So I'm really just doing the same thing to this side that I did to the other side. That's what it looks like. I'm going to pick up 3 15-ohs. I'm going to sew through the 15-oh at the end of my bicone, like that. And then I'm going to pick up 3 15-ohs, and I'm going to sew through these 2 again. So the 2 11-ohs, just to complete that sequence. Careful about getting caught on your bicones. So let me just pull that down. So it's going to look just like that. And at this point, you're exiting those 2, the 2 11-ohs right here. So you have, the 11-ohs, all these little 15-ohs on, etc. So get that done. Let's do a little more here. So I'm exiting these 2 right here. So here are the 3 I put on. I'm going to go through this one, like that. I'm going to skip the middle one. I'm going to go through, sew through the next one. Like so. When we continue on, it'll pop, that one will pop up. So like that. So through the next 2 11-ohs, and that bead will pop up in a second. So those are the next 2 11-ohs. So we're just kind of going around what we did, and you see how it's going to make that pop up a little bit. So just like that. And then you want to go through the 3 15s we put on, and that 4th one that's at the end of the bicone. So just like that. I'm exiting this 15-oh that's the end of this bicone. I picked up a 15-oh. I'm just going to hop over to the 15-oh that's at the end of the bicone on the other unit. I'm going to sew through like so. I'm going to do that. Another 15-oh, and I'm going to go through that. The bicone, the little 15-oh at the end of the bicone on the other side again. So I'm just putting a couple of 15-ohs right here, and then I'm going to work my way down to here. So I'm going to go through the 3 15-ohs like that. And then I'm going to work my way through the 2 11-ohs. So just going around what I did right now so I can make that center 11-oh pop up on the other side. So pop through these 2 like that. And it'll be a little less clumsy for you. Like so. and then I'm going to sew through this. So here are the 3 in the middle here. So you're not doing that point. We're going to sew through this one. So you want to just keep in line with what you've done, and then this one. So we're making this end pop up now. Like so. And when you pull, and you don't have to pull it, you know, incredibly tight, but just pull it so it's nice and snug, and you'll reinforce. And then you're just going to go around and reinforce just to make that pop up and to get everything nice and snug. So just like that. I've just reinforced all the way around. So I just went through all the beads again, and you know, and I gave it a nice even tension, and this is what it looks like. So here are our connections on the in between the 3 components. I think it's looking really, really good. You know, now just a thought, you know, I'm always thinking about what else you could do. I mean, you could actually add more of these components on. You might have enough, I'm not sure, in your collection, but I mean, these, you can always purchase them, or you probably have bicones in your stash and such, so you could add another one on. I'm going to add a chain on now, you know, or the necklace area, you know, part of it, but you could go on. All right, so get that done, come back, and we'll continue. Opting for a simple double chain on this because I think you can twist it. I twist it looks so pretty. You can get as complicated as you want. You can get as ornate and creative, you know, whatever you like. And then I thought we'd add this, however, and then maybe a tassel, have a tassel or a drop. So the only thing is that if you add this piece on, when you reverse it, the back isn't finished like the front. So do you think that's okay? I don't know. I wish it was finished on both sides. That would have been cool. You know, I mean, but of course they don't always do that. So, you know, it's up to you whether you want to add that piece on and see if it looks good reversed or not. Maybe I'll do it, and that way you can decide. All right, so thread a needle with 40 inches of thread, and we'll start the chain. So I'm holding it this way just because it's easier for me to sew in this direction. So here I'm just in the same spot that I was over here, right here. I've just sewn through. So the 40 inches of thread, we're going to use both threads, so you can thread a needle on both ends, or you can switch, you know, to the other side, whichever. But you want to make sure that you have even ends of your thread. Can't even see my thread because I'm using the white or the clear. So here, do you see? That's what it looks like. You can have thread coming out of you know, 2 threads. So I've just sewn through these first 2 11-ohs after that middle 11-oh there. Let me pull in really tight for you to see this. Okay. So let me just grab. There we go. All right, so I've sewn through these 2 11-ohs right here after that point one. I put on 2 11-ohs, the 4mm pearl, and 2 11-ohs. Just like that. And then I've sewn through the 2 11-ohs on this side. That's before that center 11-oh. And then when you pull and kind of, you know, maneuver it into position a little bit, that's what it's going to look like. So I have both my threads. You want to measure those threads or make sure they're about even. And then what I did is I put on a sequence of beads. So I put it on my needle case just so you can see the thread. So see the 2 threads, and then this is the sequence I chose. I just did a pearl, an 11-oh. This is I think a 5 or 6mm bead. It's a turquoise bead I had in my stash because I just wanted a little bit bigger bead there. But you can use that 4mm fire polish. You can use anything you like. Go in your stash. You probably have like bags of, you know, 5 or 6mm round beads that, you know, that you're just wondering what you can do with. Well, this, you can do this. So then you know, so they have the pearl, the 11-oh, the 5 or 6mm, the 11-oh pearl, and then I just did a repeat of that. You, like I said, you can do anything you like here, anything you can get as elaborate as you like. You can put, you know, ring beads in between O beads, whatever you like. So this is what it's going to look like. So just continue until you get the length you like. And then I want you to end with, what did we end with? I think we ended with, well, you know what, end with the pearls, and I'll see if we need to, I can't tell on the other side whether I ended with the pearl or with the 11-0. So end with the pearl, we could always add 11-0s on, okay? And then we'll come back and we'll add the clasp. Let's get the clasp on. So I've just, I have my ring on my clasp. I picked up a 3mm bead here. This is a little turquoise crystal, but you can use anything. I came through the ring and I picked up another one. And you want to make sure everything's tight here. I'm just using one needle right now. I'm going to sew through that 11-0 on the other side and just get a pull. And that's what it's going to look like so far. You want to make sure that that ring is going to stay in between the two beads. You don't want it on thread. You want it in between the beads like that. Let me just give you a close up on that. So with my other needle, which I already did, I was exiting the 11-0 on top of the pearl, so we did have that 11-0 on top of the pearl. I just went through, and here's the needle here. I went through the little 3mm, the ring, the 3mm, and the next 11-0. So I just kind of did the same thing on that side. I just moved the thread, each thread from side to side. This is what it looks like. Pick up one thread. I'm going to pick up an 11-0. I'm going to sew through the 11-0 on the other side. I'm going to make sure you keep this nice and tight, like that, and then through the 3mm, the ring, and the 3mm on the other side of the ring, and the 11-0, like that. So you did that with one thread, and still you want to push that ring down so it's going to stay in between the beads. And then I'm just going to take that same thread. I'm just going to move it out of the way for a second, so I'm going to go down the pearls a little bit. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing with the other thread. So exiting here, I'm going to sew through the middle bead. I'm going to sew through the 11-0, got it, the 3mm. Now I broke my thread, so I'm working with a very tiny thread through the ring, down these guys, like that, and then down a few beads here just to get the thread out of the way, and then I'm going to pull both ends and make sure that everything is nice and snug, and it is. And then I'm just going to go down my necklace and tie some half hitch knots along some of the beads, and then you'll have one side of the clasp on. You'll do exactly the same thing for the other side. We're back and we're done, and I think it came out great. I absolutely adore it. I love both sides. I think they came out so pretty. I mean, I don't know which side I like better. I think they're both very pretty. As I said in the intro, you can always do a little something on that if you want, or just leave it off. All right, so I want to thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.